Great to hang out with you again for another Video Creators podcast episode. Every week, me, my team, Lennon, Delana, and myself, we just do our best to help you guys move forward with your YouTube channels and the businesses that you're growing around them so you can not only make more money, but ultimately reach more people and change their lives with the services and with the content that you're creating for them. And this comes with some risks. It comes with this idea sometimes, especially in our society today, that it's important that you hustle, hustle, hustle. You grind and that you drive fast. Like if you're not up all day and all night working hard on this thing, then you're gonna lose to whoever is. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. This is gonna be a little bit more of a personal episode because I personally am experiencing some of the, I don't know what the right word is, some of the repercussions of that in some ways, and even had a doctor's visit this morning. So I'm working through some of that. Lennon has already worked through some of that. And so I'm looking forward myself, honestly, to learning from Lennon and hearing how he redefines what hustle should be and what hustling, like what that mentality should look like in a way that we're still working hard to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish on YouTube and our business, with our family and our personal lives, but in a way that doesn't sacrifice the very thing that we're trying to just really accomplish and kind of maybe destroying ourselves in the process. So this is a very important conversation. It's not typically one of the ones that everyone gets excited about, like how the algorithm works and how to get more views on YouTube and how to get more subscribers and how to make more money. All those things are important, we believe, as tools that we can use to further reach people and change their lives. But there does become an unhealthy place where those things start taking over. And I, if you're listening to this now, you're like, nope, not me, Tim. Like, I, I would just encourage you, like, maybe you should just listen anyway and find out, because I'm just thinking of myself. I know for the past 7 years of just going really hard here at Video Creators, I would have been like, no, not me. I got that. I don't have any of those symptoms, those problems, until it just kind of hits you, literally. Like it just hits you. And then you're like, what is going on? You're like, oh, wait, I have that problem too. So even just thinking about it, my chest is getting a little tight. So we should probably move on. And let's talk about this topic here in a pretty honest way, and figure out how can we help each other out as creators who are working through this. Our moderator today is Ken King. Thank you, Ken, for being here. I can put a link to his channel in the description here in the show notes. If you're here on YouTube, down the description, you can find a link to his channel. Thank you, Adventures in Dirt, for moderating us today. What he's doing is throughout this session, whenever you have any questions that are on topic, like questions that are off topic, we're not going to be addressing today. If you have problems with starting to grow your channel or things like that, those are great questions. We talk about those things other weeks. This week, we're talking about reclaiming the hustle mentality. And so as Lennon goes through this material with us, if you have questions about that, ask those in the chat. And Adventures in Dirt, Ken will do his best to grab as many of those that are relevant and on topic and put them in front of Lennon and I, and we will answer those questions here at the end, as many of them as we can, and kind of help you guys go through them. If you haven't checked out Ken's channel, like I said, there's a link down in the description below. I just checked it out earlier today, actually, for the first time, and it was fun. You're seeing everything that he's uncovering with his metal detector. There's gold and jewelry and coins and just like all sorts of like things that I was like, that might be buried beneath me right now. I should go get a metal detector. But he's also just giving info on the entire metal detector community, which it was like really cool to kind of catch up on that. So go check out his channel down below if you're interested in joining along in his journey. And if you would like to be a moderator for us here on these live streams, we do them every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And there's also a link down there where you can fill out our application. Grace is the person on my team who organizes the moderators for this, and the producers who are taking the questions from the chat, putting them in front of us and things. So if you're interested, you're already here pretty regularly anyway. I know I definitely see some names here that that I see pretty often. So if that's you, then fill out that application below and Grace will get in touch with you, and we'll go from there. We do have some open spots coming up over the next few weeks. So we're looking to grow this team so we can get all these weeks covered and have some good shows lined up for you guys with some good community interaction with you guys here in the chat and the live stream. So check out Ken's link down there below, as well as the link if you want to apply and join us for future ones. Lennon, I know this is a topic that you've experienced a little bit. You want to tell us a little bit about your story, and then I'll share mine? For those of you who don't know, Lennon is a strategist on my team. So he's one of the guys who's working with our clients and people doing YouTube strategy for them.
Yeah, so good to be here for another week. I'm excited to talk about this. I think that when Tim asked if I had anything, or we have a Trello board. It's like, here's some ideas for podcast, and this one was sitting on there. This is something I'm kind of working on for my own audience, because this was something that really hit me about probably about 4 or 5 months ago. So just after the pandemic had hit. And the reason is there was about 6 months, 7 months there where I was working 7 days a week, whether it was here doing my other job, working on my own side business, playing drums, doing anything I could for that very reason, that like, if I let something go, what's going to happen? How am I going to make sure that my bills get paid? How am I going to make sure that my side business is growing? How am I going to, like, just the questions just start to come up, and so this is something that I really took some time to think about, and because I believe that we have to work hard, but I think that working hard is not necessarily the same as this hustle culture that we hear everybody speak so romantically about. Because when we start to romanticize this idea of hustling all the time and just going really, really, really hard without giving our body what it needs, then something starts to happen. And that's called resentment. Or feeling obligation. So my coach said it this way: the obligation is a breeding ground for resentment. So if we feel obligated to do something versus feeling inspired or excited to do something, then all of a sudden it's going to shift the way we approach it. We're not going to make as good a content as we're trying to make. We're not going to put out the things that we want to do to grow the business that we want to create. And I think that that's a really dangerous it becomes an addiction. Truthfully, it becomes an addiction. Oh,
there we go.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, I had to switch my microphones. It was going off the wrong microphone this entire time. Does this sound better now?
Yeah, it still sounded really good. So I don't know. Maybe on this end it was fine.
Using my AirPods before, so I think we're on the right track now.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, all right. For me, it didn't get to the point where it was. Well, let me say it this way: I didn't feel like it was an addiction. It was. Just be honest with you guys here. Running video creators for seven years. I always kind of thought that this business is here to serve my family and to serve the creators who are aligned with our mission. The people who have who are trying to reach people, change their lives, grow a business around that. That's who we're here to serve. And any of you guys who have started growing a business know that comes with a lot of different expectations and a lot of different pressures, and it has different impacts on those of us who are entrepreneurs and business owners that most people just don't understand. They don't get it. You can explain it to them and they're like, wow, why are you complaining? Like everything else is, everyone can only see the stuff that's really oh, I wish my life was more like yours in this sense and that sense. But I'm like, I don't think you do, because that sense and this sense comes with all these other senses that you don't know about or haven't experienced yet. And if I explain it, it sounds like I'm just whining or complaining, but the pressures are real. And it's been growing and growing and growing for me here to the point where, just to be honest with you guys, I had a doctor's appointment this morning. There's some physical stuff that's coming up that I'm that guy. I'm like, oh, I don't ever feel stressed. I handle it all really well and never any problems. And then I started getting these physical things. And there's like, yeah, those are all signs of stress. Like you might not feel it on like some sort of sad emotional level, but your body is definitely feeling it. I'm like, Tim, when was the last time you did anything fun just for you? Like that wasn't related to like your family or your work or your creative stuff, or just like the only purpose of the goal was like just to have fun for you. And I was like, 11 years ago, honestly. It kind of started. I mean, it wasn't, that was before the business started. But that was the first step, was like when my daughter was born, our first daughter. We now have 7 kids. So that's been part of it too. You have 7 kids in 8 years. You're just on goat mode like the entire time. And so when our daughter was born, that's when the first shift happened. And then when I lost my job, that's when the second shift happened, because now I was like really trying to figure out how do I provide for the family. And then I got a job, lost a job, started video creators, and it's just been like go, 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 go since then. And people usually, it's not uncommon for them to ask me like, Tim, how do you do everything? How do you get it all done? And I always kind of shrugged and be like, I don't get it all done. There's always more. And I just like, and so now it's kind of all catching up with me. And so I feel like I need to get to I was telling my wife, Dana, we were on a date last night. I was telling her, like, I think I just need to take like 2 weeks off, which I know sounds normal for those of you guys who have jobs, like a 2-week vacation once a year or something. But I've taken time off here and there, but mostly just for family travel and things like that. So, and we do Saturdays are always off, but I need like a more extended period. So anyway, yeah, it's I'm looking forward to hearing from you, Lennon, and kind of learning from your journey here as we go through this material and learning how I can have a healthier hustle mentality.
Well, let's jump into it.
Well, let's do our creator spotlight first here.
Well, let's jump into it right after this creator spotlight.
Before we dive into that, though, I want to introduce you guys to our creator spotlight this week. It is Carlos Devis. And when Carlos and I started working together on his channel, it was about a year ago, and he came to me with like 40,000 subscribers, been working on it for several years. And he had all these things. I remember that first session with him. I was like, no, Carlos, you can't do this. You shouldn't do that. Like, you got to stop. And he hated the responses because he was like, he really loved some of that content that I was pushing back on and some of the things that he was doing. And he had heard from other people that is absolutely the way you should do it. And he's like, no, I don't think I was telling him, I don't think that's how you should do it. And he didn't want to get rid of it. So anyway, to get to his credit, he did a lot of the things that I did, even though he didn't want to, some of the things I told him to do. And in 1 year, instead of spending another couple of years trying to get to 50,000 subscribers, he took his channel over a few years, I think it was 6 years, went from 0 to 40,000 subscribers. And then in 1 year, he went from 40,000 to 250,000 subscribers in less than a year. And so this conversation you're about to hear is at the tail end of one of our sessions together. And I just asked him, hey, what changed for you on your channel? How did you go from 40,000 to 250,000 in 1 year? And his response, I think, is not what I was expecting him to say, actually. But I think it's interesting. It's a different perspective that we haven't had here yet when it comes to how do you grow your channel. So let's cut to that little conversation with Carlos, and then we'll be right back after that. Tell everyone what you're doing on YouTube and what your channel is all about.
Okay, we help the people to get financial peace, and to learn how to make money with real estate in a safe way.
You're like the Spanish version of Dave Ramsey, but with real estate, not just debt and climbing out of debt and paying off credit cards and things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have been working hard on your channel. We talked almost a year ago, and you had about 40,000 subscribers. And it's been a pleasure for me to talk with you, because sometimes I do these sessions and people take a lot of good notes and then they leave, and then that's kind of the end of it. Like, you don't actually do the things that we tell. But you were the opposite. You went all in, worked very hard on your channel, and here we are almost a year later. And instead of 40,000 subscribers, you have over 250,000 subscribers doing millions of views, hundreds of thousands of views on many of your videos. What would you say over the course of the past year were like the main things that you did on your channel that really contributed to that type of growth?
Okay, two things, and also making a lot of money, because I,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
sell training
yeah,
courses and you're a coach, and yes, for
but
sure.
the first thing for me was doing the appointment with you. That
Oh,
make
thank you.
really. I had my channel from 2014. And it was
Oh, yeah.
kind of a dead body that I have in my freezer.
Oh, no. I hope you don't have any of those.
But then I take that the consultation with you, and we really love your advice, and it was like magic. In
Hmm.
very few weeks we apply. Word by word what you told us, and really is incredible what we have done. I appreciate very much, really.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I wasn't even expecting that. So thank you. I'm glad that was so helpful. What were the things that you did on your channel that unlocked growth?
First is to really be open to do what I need to do, or in the form that is good for the people. Because
Hmm.
I get used to one ways to give my message, and in my case, I did seminars or training or coaching or audios, but video is very different. Then it's very, and I am 66, and then it's very challenging because YouTube is a lot of junk and handsome and beautiful people, and I'm ugly, or then it was very challenging. But if you focus in what you have and you are open to do it in the way that works, as you said, the numbers, and do it one, keeping the consistent, and more than compare myself with other people, is do it a little better every day.
Hmm.
For me, the main thing is paying mentoring and
Hmm.
investing in seminars and trainings, because really it's a incredible investment. Even
Yeah.
if my channel didn't have money, I invest in you and your mentoring, and mentoring for me is a great investment.
Yeah. I'm looking back on some of our notes here from our previous session, and one of the things that I know you worked really hard on was making your thumbnails and your titles more clickable in terms of teasing value as opposed to just trying to cram keywords in there. And I know that really made it a lot easier for you now. You get most of your traffic from the homepage and from suggested traffic, which means that when your audience finds your content, they're just clicking on it. Like YouTube's just surfacing it to them without them even looking for it. And that's where you're getting a lot of the growth from. And I know that comes down, like the first time we talked, I know you're very heavy on using a lot of text in your thumbnails, and you're repeating the title of the episode in the thumbnail as the title of the video. And now you're focusing primarily on a visual in the thumbnail with some text, but it's complementing the title, which is really good. I know you've been focusing as well on our three bucket strategy of discoverable, community, and sales content, and making each video crafted with a specific goal in mind, as opposed to the goal of every video is to get views, get subscribers, make sales, rank number one, go big on Reddit, get lots of comments, lots of subscribers, and all these different goals for every piece of content. You're on the right track, man. I'm excited for your channel.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm so excited for his channel too. And you guys can go check out a link to it down in the show notes if you want to check out and see what he's doing, what his growth has been like, and how that's been working out for him. And if you would like to do what Carlos did and sit down and do a 1 hour one-on-one private consultation with Lennon, Elena, myself, our team, you can do that at videocreators.com/consulting. And you can just go right there, kind of see a little bit more about what it entails, and just click a session and book it right on our calendar. You can see exactly what our availability is, pick a slot that works for you, and get yourself right on our calendar there. And we'd love to sit down with you for each of those sessions. Lennon or I or Delana, whoever's doing it, we spend time before the session looking at your channel. You're going to tell us a whole bunch of questions and give us some notes and things that you'd like to discuss as a part of the form that you fill out. But we will come prepared to talk about those things, as well as some of our own notes and thoughts, and maybe questions you didn't even know to ask, things that you didn't know to consider that we think would help you reach your goals on YouTube. And then we'll just spend an hour going through it. I know an hour doesn't seem like a whole lot, like how much can I really get from an hour? But it's been my experience, Lennon, that most people at the end of an hour are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that we are going to cram this much into it. And they usually walk away feeling they've got like 6 months to a year's worth of work at that point. Is that what yours have been pretty typical like that too?
Yeah. Yeah, hands down. I mean, it's usually like, okay,
Right. Like, I can't
gosh, you
keep all these
recorded this,
notes.
right? I'm like, yeah, I recorded it.
My favorite part
It's
is
like,
all the light bulb
yeah.
moments and epiphanies that are happening and stuff in them. So, yeah, we do record the sessions, and we'll send you a link so you can go back and for your own private use, you can go back and review them, see if in case you missed anything. Because, yeah, we do cram a lot in there. But if you want to check it out, videocreators.com/consulting. Lennon, I don't want to start that way. Lennon, I'm curious to hear more from you, not only about your story, but also, what this hustle definition is that you have and how you think about hustling in a healthy way. Because I know mine's not super in a healthy spot anymore, and looking forward to hearing from you. So where does this start? What should we consider as we kind of think about this?
Well, I should preface it by saying that one of the things, so I recently invested in a private coach, and one of the things that we're working on together is really being reminded that this is a daily journey. Like, there is no getting this all right away. That when you are changing your mindset, which is really what a lot of this is about, we're changing our mindset from being results driven to process driven. Are we loving the process so much that we can continue to do it and enjoy it? When we only focus on the results, if we never get those results, then we're just constantly spinning our wheels towards something that ends up, again, going back to that thing I said earlier, causing us to feel resentful toward what we're doing. So there's so I've put this in. Is it called an acronym? Is that what you use?
I think so. Yeah. When you say
Yeah.
the letters and hustle stands for something.
Yeah. So I've made a new word or a new phrase for each letter within hustle. And the first one comes from a practice that they do in addiction recovery. So my mother was an alcoholic, and she was clean her last 10 years of her life. But one of the things that they say in addiction recovery is if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, that you need to stop and take care of those needs. So if you're hungry, you need to stop and eat. If you're angry, you need to stop and take a breath. If you're lonely, you need to phone a friend, like, get Regis on the phone. And then if you're tired, like, go take time. And it's so interesting because I'm a first account, just like completely, I'll go against these all the time. It's like, okay, I can go another 20 minutes without eating. And next thing I know, I've forgotten to eat and I'm another hour deep. And then when I look at the work that I've done, it's not even that good. Like, I've just barreled through, and it's that law of diminishing returns. Or if I'm tired, then I'll plow through because it's like, well, I've still got another hour in my workday. Even though I'm tired, I'm going to still plow through for that hour. When it's very likely that if I would have taken that hour just to rest, my day tomorrow could have been twice as effective. Or my night with my family, which is something that really I value to a huge extent, would be a lot more enjoyable, which would then lead to a better day tomorrow. We're never thinking about the long term in the hustle mentality. We're only thinking short-term gains. And that can be a really, really dangerous place.
Yeah. I think of it as like, I always feel like I've always got like one more thing to do. And then I do that thing. There's like one more thing to do. And not really even thinking about like the long term. I'm not really thinking about, it's just always like one fire, another fire, do this thing, put that thing out, and as you know, Lennon, like even when I'm going through like our project management tool that we use for stuff, I'm always like, what is that thing that like I'm always looking at not just what I need to do today, but I'm usually working on things that were actually due like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm ahead on some things, right? But it's just and that's just not it didn't feel stressful. It's kind of like, oh, that's just how I work, but I don't think it
I
should be.
I think it's important though that we realize that if we look at the 80-20 rule, right, that 20% of what we do is actually going to accomplish 80% of our goals.
Mhm.
You may have things in the tank that you're like, I should have done this 3 or 4 days ago. But the thing we really just have to all be looking at is what's the most important things right now. And some of those things are then going to have to sit in the tank for a while. And really, I think the most healthy way to work is to learn to not be so concerned about that checklist, that it's not about things still being there, because they're going to be there. Like you said, it never goes away. And I think the faster we realize that and just are able to embrace it and say, okay, this is going to be here tomorrow, and that's okay. And tomorrow may have its own things that we have to struggle with and deal with, but that's all right. I'll put those ahead where I need to, and we'll just keep going down. Eventually, you do get to those things. It's like cleaning out your garage. Like, I have a garage I've wanted to clean all summer. Here we are, about to hit winter. It ain't happened, but I know that that's not something that's going to move the needle in what matters the most to me in my life right now.
I think one of the ways I tried addressing that problem in the past was just to be like, well, there's too much going on. I can't do all of it right now. And so I'm going to hire someone else to start doing that. And then they get full and they don't have time. Then they start feeling the same way you do. And then you're like, well, I'm going to hire someone. And I think I've tried to solve that problem in the past by just hiring people and throwing more time and hours at it. And there is certainly a place for that. I don't know, like, especially based on the sessions that I've been doing lately, I don't know that that's where you should start, because I'm seeing more and more people being like, "Well, I don't have a sustainable financial model around my channel. I just feel like I need to make an investment into it, and so I need to hire all these people right out of the gate." And that might be a good strategy for some people and some brands. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's happening more and more and more where I feel like people are just trying to like, if I'll just throw more money at this and more people at this, and I'll solve this problem. And I'm more and more convinced that it's not that, like I said, there might be a place for that, but there might be a place where you just need to do less in the beginning. And you just need to say no to more things and have a clear definition of what we do and what we don't do, what we can handle and what we can't handle, even when it comes to our creating content, of just saying like, this could be really good, this could be an amazing video, this could be amazing for our channel, but what's it going to cost me, not just in terms of money, but in terms of time and energy and emotional equity, relational equity, all that kind of stuff. And especially the younger generation that's doing a lot of the social media stuff for hearts and likes and subscriptions, and they're start living their life for that stuff rather than just being able to be present in a moment and just have friends because they like those friends in their company, as opposed to having friends of like, what kind of photos could we get together when we hang out. So that's probably not as much our audience here, but it is a concern of mine. And I used to feel like, oh, that's not me, but I can see how we all can fall into that in our own different ways, just different
Mm,
labels and different topics, but same issue at its root.
absolutely. Yeah. But, hands down, I think it starts with, what do we need as people to keep ourselves like in our bodies in check. And so I think that halt mentality of hungry, angry, lonely, tired, if you're hitting any of those, take a break. Because there is nothing that needs your attention. So because your business, your YouTube channel, whatever it is you're trying to grow, cannot run without you. And so even if you hire people, like ultimately it can't run without you. So make sure you're taking care of you first. So the second one is the U, which is understand what you want. So you just kind of touched on this, Tim. It's not really more followers, because if you don't know what you're going to do with those followers, you're just going to want more. So what is the thing that you really want there? It's not more money, because if you just know, if you don't know what you're going to do with that money, then you're just going to keep wanting to pack your pockets. And so, what are you going to do with that money or those followers once you have it? And what is it that you want to bring to people? So one of the exercises that I did to figure out what I want is, my coach walked me through this thing where she said, what do your days look like when you're showing up as yourself? There's no, like, you're living the life that you want. You have the business and the place that you want. You're making the money that you want. What does that lifestyle look like? And a lot of it was crazy, because a lot of it was, I'm spending more time that's purposeful with my kids. I'm taking a couple trips a year. I'm doing all these other things. It's like I'm investing in the right stuff. And then when I started to look at it, it was like, why do I need to wait to make some of these things happen? It was just an ignorant moment for me. I felt like such a ditz, because it was like, these things can exist without the other thing. But if I use these things as a driver now to say, okay, I can live this life that I want while pursuing these goals and dreams and aspirations in my career and all these other things, that's like a bonus level. That's like it's like having the star in Mario Brothers, right? You're just like doing the whole thing. And so that was a huge shift for me to think about, that to just understand what it is that you actually want. And on the surface level, it's followers. On the surface level, it's business. On the surface level, it's money. But there's always something we want from those things. Those are going to serve ourselves or people in our lives in certain ways. And we can start to serve in those ways sooner than we think. We just have to give ourselves a little more credit.
How would you recommend someone start that exercise? Just like literally just put that question at the top of the page and just brainstorm and answer it?
Yeah. So what I did is started with, what do I feel like is missing right now? And a lot of times it started with those things like, oh, well, I need to make X amount of dollars. And then, so that feels like it's missing. And then you just go deeper and deeper. And it's like, so what am I doing to try and make that money? Oh, well, I'm spending an extra 30 hours a week doing this other stuff. And then the question becomes, okay, well, what is that extra 30 hours a week costing you? What does it cost you to take that extra time that you don't want to spend? And then it came down to, oh, it's costing me my family time. It's costing my kids not spending enough time with me. It's costing my wife and I not being able to check in and communicate on a deeper level. And that was like, oh, that's the thing that I actually want, is the thing that it's costing me. And then it was a whole new level of, okay, this is where I need to focus first, and then start to roll back the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first started Video Creators, a business consultant person recommended that I write down ownership objectives of what are my objectives for owning this business? What do I want to happen? And it's interesting, 'cause I'm thinking back on that list now, and a lot of those things are not even things that even cross my mind anymore today. And the objectives have shifted without me even realizing it. And when you're not paying attention, it drifts into weird things. Not weird in the sense of like that's unusual, but just like it's just not intentional. It's just not as strategic as you might have hoped it would be when you first were starting. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So, number one, halt. Number two, understand what you want. Number three is the S, which is start. So just start making stuff. So if you're stuck in a place where you don't know exactly what to do next, and you find yourself procrastinating because of it, just start publishing something. Just start connecting with people. Just start doing something. Nothing builds confidence in what we do faster than action, because action, when we take that action, we slowly start to get more confident in what we've done. When we sit there and we just wait for something to happen, then we're not actually making any headway. We're just going to continue to dwell and say, am I able to make this thing happen? So what I want you to hear is that this hustle mentality is still about growing the thing that you want. It's not about, okay, how do we just stop and be quiet and not work? Like I know we need to do hard work. So what I'm getting at here in this moment is like, now we just have to start. We have to start. We have to stop overthinking and putting the perfection expectation on everything. And that's two of the biggest tells that I have for a client when we start a consult is one, when they say, so how do I make sure that I'm growing, that I get to 100,000 subscribers in 3 months? I'm like, well, if that's your end result, like if that's your goal, like you're going to have some problems when you don't hit that thing, right? And then the other one is the opposite of that. I just want to get this perfect. I got to make sure that I have everything just right where it needs to be before I take that first step. I want to make sure that I'm going to get the highest return on my investment. I hear that a lot. I just want to get the highest ROI on this thing. So we got to make sure that it's just right. And this, Tim, like as a guy that's built multiple, like that doesn't exist. And like ultimately we have to just start in order to see where it falls short so we can start to make moves in the right direction, right?
Yeah. You actually pushed me on this last week, Lennon, with so those you guys. I don't think I mentioned this part about my story lately, but I'm in counseling now as well for some things that have been popping up. It's just been like a big pressure cooker over the past well, it's come to a head over the past few weeks, but it's been a slow build over 7 years. And so between the stress from the business and the advice from my counselor and things like that, it's like, Tim, you need to do these two things. You need to, one, learn how to manage stress. And part of that is just doing something that you love and enjoy doing that has no connection to business or family or anything. It's just, so I'm thinking like in that regard, things like, trying to get some guys together and going for a camping trip for a weekend, or trying to figure out how to play Xbox again, because I haven't done that in so long and I kind of miss it and I think about it and things like that. But this other thing was like, Tim, you need to get into a better routine of physical exercise again as well. And I'm getting older and things, so I need to, not just for health reasons, but just for just managing stress and things too. So and so Lennon last week, I was telling the team this, and Lennon and I do like biking. It's something I did a lot before the kids were born. In fact, that's when I was saying the last time I did something for me was probably about 11 years ago when my daughter was born. I was really into biking, finally saved up, bought a road bike, and I put 700 miles on it in 3 months. And then my daughter was born, and I've done like 700 miles total in like the past 11 years, So Lennon's like, just get on the bike and roll to the end of your driveway, check the mail and roll back, right? And just start, just do something. And so thankfully I went up that a little bit and took my oldest son, he's 10. He and I threw our bikes in the back of the truck and went to a park and rode for about 4 miles. So boom. But it wasn't so much because I got physical exercise out of it as much as like I just got on and did it. So in a different context, that's kind of what you're saying, Lennon, is just start. And I was thinking, I can't go back to our team meeting on Tuesday and tell Lennon I didn't get on my bike. So I'm telling you, a day early, I did it.
a little healthy obligation there. Well, and what I like though is that if you can take, again, it's that this all kind of connects. It's like if we're lonely, tired, right? If we're in the H.A.L.T thing, if we're tired, a lot of times that has to do with how are we taking care of ourselves. And that's been the same for me. So I've been walking every morning. But what I said to myself was like, I'm just going to go outside. I'm going to do a lap around our little track. And now that's turned into like an hour almost every morning. And it's an amazing time for me. But I've figured out the thing that doesn't make it an obligation. It just makes it something I enjoy doing. But I know that it's helping me on multiple levels. So, yeah. So I think that's awesome. I love that you did that.
Well, the hard part for me is like, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time for counseling sessions. I don't have to. And then like, well, wait, that's how you got into this place in the first place is that. And so it's coming to me like, what am I going to say no to? Because I'm going to say no to something. And I don't want to keep saying no to myself, because your point in the very beginning is if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not useful to anybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm taking care of myself. I'm eating, sleeping, is there anything else I need to do? Apparently, yes.
So the T in hustle here, in my own hustle definition, is take risk, invest in yourself, and invest in yourself with your finances, invest in yourself with time, as Tim just said, uh, invest in your whole self. This doesn't mean just like take video labs, right? Like, this is, what do you know that you need? And for me, this was spending way more money than I thought I could afford on a coach, because I knew that I needed some sort of different accountability to push myself where I could go, because I knew it was in me, and I still know it's in me, and I still have so far to go. But even these little steps in just a few months have been so cool. But that took me trusting that I can invest in myself, because nobody's ever going to believe in your idea more than you will. And we often want to we want to give it to someone else and say, "Can you help me do this?" And then when they don't show up the way we want, what happens? Like, we're frustrated. We feel like the idea is not worth anything. We just have to remind ourselves, like, it's our idea, it's our baby, it's the thing that we're putting together. And so, you know, we just have to be able to invest where we know we need investing, and to be wise about it, but to also take those risks, because if we don't take risks, then we'll never know what we were capable of. And I'll say this, you know, the things that I thought were the biggest risks, I also felt this like pang in my gut that was like, I know this is a risk, but I know that somewhere down the line this is going to pay off. And ironically enough, Video Labs and then paying to go to Vid Summit was one of those things. And then here I am, luckily I've made my money back on those two investments, thanks to you, Tim.
Oh, yeah, and I have two, thanks to you. So,
but it is interesting in that way, that when we trust our gut and we take those risks that we know are investing in ourselves, the person that no one else is going to trust as much as we do, and we have to learn to trust that person too. That's when the payoff starts to happen, because we have to believe before anybody else is going to believe.
I think the fear is, though, like for me, as I listen to you, I'm thinking, what I need to do is I need to figure out what I'm going to say no to and what's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And especially now, like all this stuff is kicking in pretty intensely for me this week, Lennon, due to a decision I had to make for our business internally. And that has repercussions and ramifications that are like, now there's even more that needs to be done, that needs to be handled. And I'm like, I know it was the right thing to do. It was the right time to do it, but it's like, now I'm forced even more to say no to things. And it just feels like, what are we just going to say no to? And, like that just sounds risky. Like if we're going to say it's like, take a risk. It's like, it feels risky for me. Like, you know what? We're just not doing that thing anymore. Or I just can't do, I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but for the sake of the example, it would be kind of like me saying, I just can't do consultations anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what? Well, that's, a lot, because they are revenue and also lead gen for our business. And it's a good opportunity. I like doing them. They're fun. I like hanging out and getting to know people and hearing their stories and hearing what's going on with their channels and helping them take steps. And I love the light bulb moments that they're experiencing. And I love, Carlos comes back a year later and be like, here's what we did. Like, I love all that stuff. But I think what I'm learning is, like, sometimes you have to say no to good things in order to say yes to the best things. And those best things have just been improperly, I don't know what the right word is, not very healthily defined.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Do you feel like, because I think about this a lot. Again, we're I don't remember where this phrase froze where this phrase came from, but I heard Craig Groeschel say it. We often overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can do over a lifetime
Hmm.
of continuous work and effort, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think about that same idea in my own stuff. Like, I'm like, oh, I want to get this video out and do this thing. But I'm also like, well, but in order for me to make the money that I need to make to push the bigger thing forward, it may mean that I don't get the video out this week. But that's
Yeah.
serving the bigger picture. We make it so forever when it doesn't have to be forever. It can be in the moment.
I actually that is one of the things I was thinking about. Like, what if I just did a video once a month or every other week? Like, what if I just, instead of doing these every Thursday videos, what if, and I don't know what to do with that yet. I'm, like I said, this is all kind of new for me right now, this just in the past week where it's all kind of come to a head. But yeah, I have thrown around that idea too of just, yeah.
And it doesn't need to be forever. It can just be for now. You know, it's like sometimes we get behind on some things to get ahead in others. And
Well, too, and as I think business, like, or Lennon, like a lot of our business doesn't necessarily come from the YouTube channel. A lot of it comes from word of mouth of people working with us, and then like their channels are growing, and people are like, "Well, what did you do on your channel?" Like, you're like, "Oh, I work with video creators team," So it's a lot of our best clients come from that. And I was almost kind of thinking, like, I like doing the videos because it helps people at scale. I think that's the main thing I enjoy about it, is that you can help a lot of people at once and give people who wouldn't otherwise be able to pay for access to information. They can still get access to it that way. So I like that part of it. But there's this other part where I was like, maybe just right now, like, if the video stopped, would that impact the business? I don't know. So anyway, that's not the point necessarily here, but just like an example of something I'm thinking like I've never said no to before, and maybe I do for a season anyway.
Yeah. So the L in my own hustle here is love what you do. So I'm not naive here. Like, I know that we're not going to love everything that's happening. I love my kids, but I don't always love being a dad. Let's be real, right? So it's like the idea that your work, though, will not be fun. This hustle mentality is that sometimes we're just not going to be able to have fun for a long time. We're just going to have to be in the trenches and like do the thing, and you're just not going to enjoy it for a while. And I get so aggravated at that, because that is such a dangerous trap to like put your mindset into, because what you're doing is you're setting yourself up to that point where it's like, the only way things pay off is if I'm punishing myself first. We put ourselves in this punishment mindset of, I just got to put my nose to the grind and like really neglect everything else. And this is where you see people start to really climb a certain ladder, but they get addicted to that style of the process because they feel like that's the only way that's going to get them to the next place. And I think that is so, so dangerous. And I believe this myself. Like, that was my thing up until pretty recently. And, I realized that if I can't love where I'm at in the process right now, then I'm never going to love it. Like, we don't just all of a sudden start loving it because we hit some landmark. Once we hit some landmark, we're going to want to go to the next landmark. That's just human nature. So we have to be grateful and really like thankful and grateful about where we're at in the moment, and just trust that where we're at right now is exactly where we're supposed to be. And when we can come from that place, man, when we hit that next moment, it's like, how much better is it that we've now hit this goal, but we still just love the process along the way. And so I think we can totally love what we do. I think it has a lot to do with what you were talking about, Tim, which is like, allocating our time to the things that matter the most to us. And maybe it is a place where you start to hire out some of the other stuff that you're like, this just isn't my wheelhouse. I don't like this at all. This would totally be worth investing in somebody else to take care of this for me. Those kinds of things. Have you dealt with this at all? Like getting into the hate, like especially early on?
I was kind of thinking that I was on my date with my wife last night. I told her, I was like, I was just being honest here, guys, just being real. I don't know how real and honest I can be here yet, so we're going to find out. But I was like, I don't want to work. I want to take, like, it's not that I don't like video creators and I don't like what we do here. I don't like the mission or the people or anything like that. It's just like, I feel done inside. Like I need to take 2-3 weeks and not take off the way I normally take off, which is like I'm still checking in on Slack, still doing emails and still hopping in on meetings and um still doing consultations, but like I might block off a day because we're traveling into my in-laws and then I'll do the sessions from my in-laws house instead or something. But just like I'm not checking in on anything. I'm just like my computer just stays off for a couple of weeks. My chest is getting a little tight just talking about it. So that's exactly what I mean. So I don't know if that's so what my thought was when you say like love what you do, I'm like, if you don't take a break from it and like eventually you don't love what you do anymore. And the very thing that you were, like you said earlier, I think, Lennon, the thing you were striving to build and create in the first place becomes the opposite of like what you want it to be for you. And so what I'm not saying is I don't like I said, I'm not saying I don't like video creators, not fun or anything like that, because all that is still I love doing what I do. But I think there's a time where you're just like, I just need to stop for a little bit. And so that I continue to love what I do long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that, so you had the Keto Twins
Oh yeah.
comment up there, and it's like that's a part of it too. You know, like all these little things where, you know, if we're organized and I'm awful at this, full disclosure, but I'm trying to get better about it. But if we plan ourselves and to at least to a place where we can see what needs to get done, then in these moments like they're talking about where it's like you're just not in the mood for this thing or you don't feel up for it, you still have other things you can do. Or yeah, just to take a break is not the end of the world. Like sometimes what you need is a break. I would advise, though, that a break is not necessarily a distraction. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at here, too, is that this whole halt technique and some of those things, like if you're hungry, don't go get on Instagram. Or if you're tired, like don't check your Facebook account. Like that's not really fulfilling the need
Yeah.
that you have, because what that does is just takes up more mental energy. And what we know is that when you're using your mental capacity, you're literally burning calories, and when you're burning those calories, you're not going to make it easier on yourself when you get back into the thing that you need to do.
Yeah, the Keto Twins commented in the live chat, said, also realizing that sometimes you aren't in the mood to film. Yesterday I had that experience, just fell off, so we cut filming and decided to take a break instead and relax. Except for what I do, Keto Twins, I'm like, I just feel off. I don't feel all right. I just got to power through this, and I'll just do it anyway because the editor needs it by a certain time and date so that the producers can get it done on a certain right. And I'm just so yes, but you're right, Keto Twins. I probably do need to do more than that. Last one here, the E of hustle. And then let's jump into questions. And then we got a new thing for you guys here too. We got we're kind of dropping quote of the week and going to power tip of the week. So we got that for you guys here in a little bit as well. So let's wrap up with E first.
So the last thing here is, you know, now that you've learned how to kind of rest yourself and to invest in yourself. I just made that up. Look at that. Put that in there. Rest yourself, invest in yourself. We're figuring out what the things are that we love to do. Then examine the things that are working and refine those ideas. So the E is examine. Take a look at all that stuff that you've started making. See what's resonating the most with your audience. And take a look at all the stuff that you've let go of. Take a look at all the stuff that you've started to really put your whole self into in a new way. And how does that work your creative spirit? How does that make you feel? And double down on the things that make you feel the best. Double down on the things that work the best for your audience. We say that all the time with YouTube. And double down on the things that work the best for you. Because I cannot tell you how often I'll get people that are like, so Lennon, what kind of videos should I make then? Like, what's going to get me all these views? And that is like, that's just so dangerous, because when you always are looking for that kind of thing and it's not honest to you, there's going to come a point, I can promise you, that you're going to be like, this isn't me. And now I'm actually known for this thing. And now what do I do? And now you're just frustrated, and it's just like, it's inevitable. It just happened to me. It's inevitable. Like, it's just what happens when we seek the result first and not the process that fits us in terms of then seeking the result. Then we end up in some pretty hairy situations later on down the road.
Let's dive into some of your questions here from the live stream, the chat. Let's kind of do a lightning round here because there's a lot of questions, and I think we could probably turn each of these questions into its full like an episode here. So first one, we're gonna start with the questions from people who are channel members, and this is from DIY Gene. I sometimes feel very alone in this process. Talking YouTube with family can cause my wife and son's eyes to glaze over. How do you keep up that enthusiasm? And I guess what I'm thinking overall then in here is just the alone part of this process.
Yeah.
And it's not just the alone part of this process, but it's the alone part of like the general idea that no one really understands what I do. Like when I went to the doctor this morning, it's a new doctor because I haven't been to the doctor in like several years. So I had to do a new patient thing and ended up with a different doctor, all that kind of stuff, whatever. So she's like, "Oh yeah, what do you do?" And I was like, I don't want to get into it really, because as soon as you say anything that you do something with YouTube, people have lots of questions. Sometimes it's fun, but this time I was like, I do video marketing, and they're like, she's like, oh, super generic and safe, so no questions there. But that's the type of thing that makes you feel like I'm alone, like no one really understands what I do, and I don't really, in that moment, felt like explaining it. Anything come to mind for you, for someone like DIY Gene, or just people in general who feel like alone in this process and just don't have anyone to talk to? I know you got a life coach, I got a counselor, but I guess, are we saying that? Is that where you go or somewhere else?
Well, I think sometimes that's the unfortunate process, is that, it can take investing in somebody that's going to be able to give you what you need. Because I think when we're growing our anything that's our own, we have our own vision. Again, it goes back to that idea that nobody's going to believe in your thing more than you do. Because I deal with this too. Like my wife, there are times we both have our own, influence type things that we're doing, and we both can just be like, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing. That's cool. But it takes like finding somebody, and it may take you investing in some sort of mentor or somebody that can be there to do that. The other thing is, take the time to seek out the types of people that you would like to potentially have relationships with. So one of my goals right now is literally to seek out new relationships in my space, and that means it's going to take extra time for me to do that. But I know that in the long term, that's going to be way more beneficial than me feeling alone all the time.
Yeah. Learn along. Ask any tidbits for those who are perfectionists, and it takes me just 8 hours to edit a video and a 10-minute video, which means 1 full week to complete just one video. I would say learn along that if I were in your spot, it's always easier for us on the side to give you advice. And I know when it sounds a little trite to say some of these things, but I would challenge yourself to do a no edit video. Could you just sit down, do a one take, and call it good? Maybe I trim like the beginning and the end or something like that. But even your mistakes in the middle, just roll with it, publish it. And I'm not saying you should do that for every video going forward, but I think what it might do for you is just break through the perfectionist thing a little bit, because it's going to hurt. It's going to be really hard. And the video might do terribly, and that's fine. But the point isn't to make that video do amazing. It's just to practice backing off on the perfectionism a little bit and getting closer to like the 80-20 rule, where you spend 80% more time on that content to get like 20% more results. On YouTube though, it's typically like you're spend 95% more time on it, get 5% more results. So that's my quick response to that. Dude Real Estate asks, how would you go about balancing hustle versus balancing getting after it, especially with another business and a family? Any quick response there, Lennon, when it comes to balancing what you're saying versus like the time? I guess my quick response to that too, and I'll hear what you say, is that I think there's seasons for different things. Like when I started Video Creators, it was like an all hands on deck. There was no one else. It was just me, and I had to do everything. And it was a really intense season. And then I hired some help as that started becoming more fruitful. But then there was another season where I really had to figure out 30 Days to Better YouTube channel. When I first wrote that as a little PDF guide, and now it's developed into a full-blown course. But there was times I had to tell my wife, I'm like, hey, here's the date. And we always put a date on the calendar. We try to make sure that it never went on perpetually. Like, I got this intense season where I got to get this thing done, and I'm going to be working late and getting up early and not coming in for lunch like I normally do. But the launch date is right here, which means by this date, like, I'm back. And that helped my wife and family just kind of know this wasn't going to go on forever. And it helped them be able to be more supportive of me during that season. And it also kind of helped that season didn't just keep going without stopping. So I do think that there's appropriate seasons of intense periods of work. The problem is if it's just kind of like, and I wouldn't say it's always been intense. I think my intense level is probably higher than it is for most people, but Lennon might, I don't know. I don't want to ask Lennon what he thinks about that, but there does need to be seasons of that. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, it should be defined and not go on forever. And I think for my mistake is that my season of intensity has been like, the ceiling's been too high for too long. And what I consider intense is what most people call insane, I guess. So any quick response there?
Yeah, so I would say that the first thing to do is block out the things that mean the most to you now, so that those things get the due time they deserve. So if you need time for your family, block that out. If you need time for your other work, block that out. And then whatever time you have left, you start to get real creative with what you can do with that amount of time. Then you may find, okay, all of a sudden you're thinking about, like, okay, I got to put Facebook stuff out and Instagram and YouTube, and I got to do these other things. And it may start to realize, like, I can't do all those things. So what is the most important? And then you put those things first. So look at what is really important for you and move forward in that.
So James Dune has a question, says, so kind of along these lines. So go hard for 3 months, doing 3 videos per week, knowing it's unsustainable long-term, or find a long-term sustainable pace that will grow slower. So he says, for context, I went hard on YouTube 3 times a week over lockdown and saw fast channel growth, but eventually had to take 6 weeks off. So should he can be considering like a middle ground there in terms of, like, just keep pushing, or for a smaller channel who's getting started, what would you advise?
I think the benefit of doing a little more than what you'd like when you're early on is more about a learning process, but not at the sake of your health, your mental or physical health. So, sort of to Tim's point, I would make it seasonal, where it's like, okay, set your expectation of, okay, I want to do 1 a week. But hey, this week I can actually do 2. That's cool. I'll go ahead and do 2 this week. Like, make it more about what your expectation is and meet that. So you're not creating these unwinnable games that my coach calls it, like, where it's like, I'm going to do 3 a week every week, and that's just no matter what. And then it's when you fail at that, there's so much internally and mentally that starts to happen. So make it winnable, and then the other stuff becomes cherry on top.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up with, let me not say it that way. We got a new thing we want to do for you guys called a power tip of the week. We've been doing quote of the week for a while, and it's been something that I know a lot of you guys look forward to, but we kind of wanted to up the ante a little bit and try something new with a power tip of the week for you guys each week. And so Delana will normally be hosting these with you guys here as part of our episodes, but she is out today, in case you haven't noticed. So she did write the tip for me to share with you guys. And she said, to make any headway on the things that you really want, whether it's growing your channel, scaling your business, have more time with your family, etc., you first need to know the outcome of what you want, and then you need to set a plan according to that. And this is something that Delana does a lot, just personally as well as inside our business. She starts with the big picture. So she's saying here, set the yearly goals for yourself, for your channel, your business, your family, whatever. Start with the big picture. And then what are the goals for the year? And then reverse engineer it down to quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily. And she says, she's saying here, like, do not set daily tasks without the big picture in mind. Otherwise, you just get stuck doing work and fall into busyness. And like a rocking chair, This is my quote now. Here's your quote of the day. Like a rocking chair, it'll give you something to do, but it won't get you anywhere. What do you think about that one, Lennon?
That's awesome. I mean, with my Ozarkian roots, my like Southern Arkansas roots, that's like right up my alley.
Cool. Well, she did have a quote for you though too, which is, you cannot be satisfied until you know what you are craving. And it kind of summarizes a lot what we're talking about here is how do we know what we want, but sometimes the thing that we want is more deeply rooted in something that we actually want. And so the things we spend all our time doing is trying to get to this goal, and all of a sudden we end up trying to serve that goal instead of the thing that we want, that in a healthy way. So her advice is to start with the big picture and then work backwards from there, which I think aligns with what you were saying too, Lennon. So all good stuff. I would love to hear from you guys what your response is. You guys listening to the podcast version of this. I know we kind of shared a lot of things here, a lot of different ideas. And unfortunately, the best way that we have for you to reach out is just to tweet me on Twitter at Tim Schmoyer. I would love to hear your responses. I'm thinking about maybe getting a text messaging, like a phone number. You guys listening to the podcast and just text in your responses, because I do really want this to be more of like an interactive community thing and not just a Tim, Lennon, Delana have ideas that you need to hear type of thing. And so you can tweet me and let me know what you think about that. But just your overall response. It's been fun for me to read the reactions to you guys giving different ideas and stuff for me. Like, hey, have Lennon and Delana do videos instead of you on your channel, which, believe me, is something I've thought about. But I think if I did that to them, then they would end up exactly where I am. So don't want to do that either. We got to figure some stuff out. But thank you guys for your support who have been here in the live chat. And those of you guys who are listening, definitely want to hear from you. And just thank all of you guys for hanging out. And we look forward to hanging out with you again next week, Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/video creators for another live stream and podcast recording. So see you guys then.